All right, we're live. Let's get this show on the road. I'm Jenni June. I am a certified child and family sleep consultant, lactation counselor, pre and postnatal stress management coach, former doula. I'm a mother of 4 grown children and a 1-year-old granddaughter. And I am located in Los Angeles. I am a private coach and consultant, sleep consultant, mainly for families all over the United States. And I can help you with a lot of things if you need some phone Skype information or education or coaching, a personalized sleep plan. And you can go to my website, jennijune.com, for more information about that, my services and pricing, some great blogs, some wonderful videos about just baby care in general from birth to 12 months old. But today we are going to have a little chat about how to transition from the co-sleeping situation, whether that's intentional or reactive co-sleeping, to the crib. If you've just had enough, your sleep is so fragmented, you're so sleep deprived because you guys are on different sleep cycles, and your child's shorter sleep cycles are disrupting your longer ones because you're in different stages of the cycle throughout the night. One of you may be in a light active behavioral stage of sleep that's pretty crazy, while the other one is in a deeper stage of the sleep cycle. And so there's lots of fragmentation of each other's sleep cycles all night long, and that's what causes a sleep deprivation very quickly. It's kind of helpful not to have to get out of the bed to go feed the baby and whatever you feel like you need to do. But make no mistake about it, no matter what anybody tells you out there, your sleep will not be any better because you're co-sleeping than it would be if you had to get out of bed. It's all the same. Fragmented sleep is fragmented sleep, and that prevents that slow wave component of your sleep cycles from taking place. And after 48 hours of that, 2 back-to-back days of having that fragmented sleep, you're officially sleep deprived. So with that said, it is about 80% of my cases, families who are, hoping to get out of this cycle and transition their child from their co-sleeping situation in their bed to a child's independent sleep space in a safe crib, either in the room or in their own individual room. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to do that. There's different ways to skin this cat. So I'm going to approach, both of those philosophies and how to set your child up for success when you decide it's time to move forward with this. First, I want to say hi to my friends who are joining me today. Hi, Matt. I see you there. And I just, want to encourage you guys to, talk about your personal situation. Put your questions in your comments in the comments below here. Again, a link to my website is also available if you want to go there and find more information about how I work as a private coach and coaching families in the sleep consulting stuff. So, all right, here we go. Hi, Azine. I'm so glad to see you here. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. All right, so the first thing that we want to do when we're getting ready to make that transition from co-sleeping to the crib is to make sure that we actually have a safe sleep environment for the child, that the crib is indeed safe. And I recommend a crib if your child is over 4 months old, because we want to be 2 steps ahead of a child with regards to safety, as opposed to waiting for something to happen. And right around that 4-month mark is when we start seeing the natural, normal developmental evolution on a gross motor development level. We start seeing them roll side to side or practice from rolling, from back to tummy or tummy to back. Most of the time it's from back to tummy, and they haven't quite mastered the skill of getting back over on their back yet. But some kids are really advanced with that, and if they're going to practice it, they're going to do it in the unsupervised area of their sleep environment. It's the most unsupervised area because it's generally safe, they're contained. But you don't want them doing that in a bassinet or a sleep surface or a crib-like environment that where the rails are short. So you're going to want to drop the crib mattress down to its lower level, so that even if your child is able to kind of decide that they're going to try and pull themselves up a little bit, their head does not come over the edge of that railing of their crib or wherever they're sleeping. Because once their head comes up over the railing, even if they just kind of pull themselves up a little bit and it comes up over that railing, they're head heavy and they'll topple all the way over. And so you want to be 2 steps ahead of them in that area of safety. All right, the other thing is, and most importantly, we don't want anything other than a firm mattress, safety approved mattress. I prefer an organic one. in the crib and with a tight fitting crib sheet over that. And nothing else. No positioners, no stuffed animals, no blankets, no mobiles. Take those mobiles down so that they can't reach up and pull those down and accidentally strangle with those. It's time to get rid of those. And any accoutrements or toys or whatnot hanging off the side of the crib railings. And no bumpers. Even the breathable ones are not deemed safe by the American Academy of Pediatrics. They can either be, a strangulation hazard or a suffocation hazard, and we just really want to make sure they're safe. All right, real quick before I move forward with the rest of the safety in the crib, Azine has a question. Yeah, you're right. My son is 6 months old. He still isn't rolling yet. Should I start sleep training him, or wait until 8 months when he goes to sleep in his own room upstairs? Well, here's some good news, Azine. Sleep training, to the average person out there, and even to a lot of sleep consultants out there, and some of the books we're reading, let me just give you my definition of what that is in my work. Most people just assume it's a behavioral, a behavioral sleep training method is what you're going to use to do this. Whether in and you're looking at, choosing your method depending upon probably how much crying you think there's going to be. And some of these methods are marketed as no crying, but that's not the case at all. The only difference between all the methods is how much the parent wants to be a part of that crying process. Because ultimately, behavioral methods really just are about change and how to get to the other side of that change. And there's going to be a temporary time where your child's telling you they think your new sleep rules suck. And that's normal. It's healthy for them to express their preferences, that they'd like you to continue doing the work for them. Nobody likes change. Even good change has a couple of days of temporary struggle involved until we have a new pattern in place that becomes more and more familiar. But with regards to whether or not to, sleep train at 6 months or 8 months, it doesn't matter so much the environment. It really does just matter, if your pediatrician gives the thumbs up, your child's healthy, you're at your wit's end with your own sleep deprivation. If you feel ready, that's a big one, because most important thing that your child's going to need when you sleep train is your consistency. When it comes to infant mental health, when a child has a loving, securely attached caregiver and there's no trauma or anything like that going on in the home, this is a healthy, loving, supportive environment that they've, developed a secure attachment in. The next thing that's most important to them is not so much the tears. It's just the, especially around changes to their health and safety, areas of health and safety, is just a simple, clear, consistent message from the parent. That's the most important thing. So when you feel ready and you feel like you could provide that for your child, then it's time to go. The other thing about sleep training is it's not just that behavioral method we talked about for a few seconds here. It's really more about the sleep science. Is providing a foundation of well sleep. Just looking at the science and what their brain is needing, what your child's brain is craving. And sometimes we forget when this stuff develops for them. It's about 16 weeks properly dated from their birth date rather than their due date. And if we don't start evolving our parenting responses to meet and match their evolving developing needs for sleep, the sleep cycles being mature now for a consolidation of sleep at night and consolidation of calories during the day. So sleep is no longer fragmented, that we're providing all the healthy stages of a complete sleep cycle so they no longer feel teething pain or hunger, and they can consolidate that sleep at night. But if we're waiting to do that past that point where that part of their brain and their circadian rhythm is developed, then we're kind of contributing to an accumulation of a sleep debt. And it gets worse and worse as we wait it out. But it's never impossible and never too late to start. So that's the good news. If you're just, super stressed about beginning, teaching, it's the first time really that we start teaching our kids anything is, it's around health and safety issues, the evolving our parenting responses and, kind of evolving out of that newborn stage, on demand, responsiveness. It starts to evolve to hedge them in with protection around these areas of health and safety. Sleep is one of the first things we teach our children. And it is scary for a first-time parent, especially with all the rhetoric out here, in this current parent culture that, any little tear your child, sheds is going to be like battery acid, like it's going to, all of a sudden, completely undo all the secure attachment you've established up to that point. Never mind what sleep deprivation does to your child's brain and development and emotional well-being, but that's a whole nother show. So do what feels comfortable to you, and have that conversation with your pediatrician. Make sure your child's healthy and no underlying conditions, and they're ready to go. But when you are ready to go, here's what it looks like. Safety first. Hi, Raina. Thank you. Happy to be here for you too, and happy Thursday to you, Iari. So crib safety, again, firm mattress, tight-fitting crib sheet in a safe crib. You can decide to keep that crib in your room all the way up to 12 months, which is the current recommendation from the American Academy of Pediatrics. Or you can have them in a separate sleep environment, a different room of the house, and just have a good baby monitor. A baby monitor that has a video camera and everything, so that, they're almost like being right there in your room, except for you don't hear every tiny little noise in the different stages of their sleep cycles that might arouse you all the way awake or keep you, kind of on high alert, continuing to sleep deprive you to the point where you're no longer, able to be fully attuned to your child during the day, when it's time for you to be, in parent mode. So, or hand that off to your caregiver. All right, so good baby monitor, really important. Now, again, no positioners, no anything in the crib. The sleep environment is going to be something you're going to want to pay attention to when you make the transition from your co-sleeping, in bed sharing to the crib. You're going to want to make sure that the room is really dark. This is so important. During those light active behavioral stages of the sleep cycle, stage 1, the eye gates open up. They're, there's behavioral movement and talking and vocalization, and it looks like they're totally awake. And you would look at them on a baby monitor or look at them in their crib and think, oh, you're awake, crap. And 1 to 5 minutes in the middle of the night, which is the duration of that active stage of sleep, feels like an eternity in the middle of the night. And especially when you see their eye gates open up. If their eye gates open and their retina catches the slightest streak of light coming through the closed window blinds, or the edges of the blackout curtains, or an indicator light on the baby monitor, or maybe your digital alarm clock, it's enough to arouse them all the way awake. We want to make sure that it's really dark in the room so that they seamlessly transition from stage 1 to stage 2 and from one sleep cycle to the next without a full arousal. So that'll be really helpful. The other thing, guys, is, really make sure those, that it's that they're not too bundled up, they're not overheated, and the room is not too warm. And that's going to be another show. We're going to get into depth on that, especially as we enter the summer months and it gets warmer outside. But keep them cool. There's a lot less risk for SIDS if you keep that temperature of the room between 68 and 72 degrees Fahrenheit. Don't overbundle them. This is the time to kind of, start using those very lightweight, breathable sleep sacks, cotton, muslin, bamboo, whatever, and make sure they're not the thick kind. Really just kind of, help them regulate their core body temperatures. That's going to go a long way in making them comfortable in that new sleep environment and better able to produce that important sleep hormone melatonin. So a big plus there. And then make sure you've got some good white noise. We want white noise that's conducive to sleep, something that has ambient, consistent sound in the background. No ocean waves, lullaby music, heartbeat rhythms, rain sounds. All that stuff is counterproductive to sleep. We really want an ambient, low frequency tone in the background. Bust out your fan. If you have a fan, inexpensive fan or a box fan somewhere in the house, use that and just make sure it's not blowing directly on your child. An air purifier is sometimes loud enough to condition those stimulating sounds coming from outside of your child's bedroom window or bedroom door that might arouse them all the way awake. And make sure that it's not if you're using a white noise machine, that it's avoid the ones that are pre-recorded looping sounds that have that high-pitched frequency, tinny sound. Those really don't work unless you're placing them close up to your child's head, and that can be potentially damaging to their hearing. So if that's all you've got to use, just make sure you use the setting that's the pure static, and that it's at least 200 centimeters or 5.5 feet away from your child's head, and then cross your fingers that that's actually going to do the job. We want to make sure that we're when you make a transition to the to a different sleep environment for your child, a lot of people think it's about, that the change of the sleep environment is going to be scary or undo your child. And if the sleep hygiene is poor, it's not going to go well. And so that brings me right to my next topic, guys. It is really important that the 4 pillars of sleep hygiene are tightly in place before you make any big changes to your child's sleep environment or the timing of sleep or your parenting responses. Because if that sleep hygiene isn't in place, nothing you do behaviorally or the changes you make environmentally is going to go very well. It might take temporarily for like a hot minute, but it's not going to last. And it's also, the reason why we want to use good sleep hygiene plan that's age appropriate for your child is because the purpose of it is to make sure that those powerful sleep hormones are elevated at sleep onset so that your child can actually experience deep restorative sleep. Get that yummy, deep, delicious sleep crack, that slow wave sleep within each of his or her sleep cycles. And it's hard to fight sleep when you're giving, a child that kind of quality sleep cycle, and connected sleep cycles throughout the night. And I'll tell you, it's no different than giving, a starving man some food. You know what I mean? Like if you're starving to death and somebody offers you food, you don't care where you eat it, how you eat it. You don't even care half the time what it is. You're going to eat it. And so if your child is sleep deprived because their sleep has been fragmented all night by the co-sleeping situation, maybe potentially even the all-night open bar going on, where that slow wave is depleted from the sleep cycles, you just set them up for success with good sleep hygiene where the brain and body want to do the sleeping because you've got all these elements in place that really set them up for success to just, just do it the minute that, you give them the opportunity. That's going to really reduce the stress that comes along with any potential changes to the sleep environment that transition into a crib, which might be new for them. So really important. And you can learn more about those 4 pillars of sleep hygiene on my website, jennijune.com. And this is the secret to my success, my family's success, when I do coach families and help sleep train their children. So definitely check that out because the rest of this stuff doesn't matter if that's not in place. That's the secret. Change is easy when you set somebody up for success and when they can actually do what you're asking them to do on a hormonal, physiological basis, and even also, making sure that there's a foundation of emotional well-being there. And that's what those 4 pillars do. All right. So with that said, there's two philosophies on transitioning, as far as like behavioral and getting them ready to make the change to the sleep environment. One is, the gradual process, and one is a quicker process. Again, if somebody's starving, you don't want to kind of give them one crumb at a time. You want to give them a little more than that, and move them through the process quickly. They're dying for food. Your child's dying for sleep, so depending on what you see going on, and if your child is or is not sleep deprived, it's going to make a difference in, which philosophy you feel is the best match for your family. A gradual philosophy would be a gradual approach. Some people think that it's important to have your kid play in the crib, to get them used to it. And, I hear this one a lot on some of the sleep associations, some of the other cases that, we sometimes share cases and talk about our cases on there, different sleep consultants. And, it all sounds nice and warm and fluffy and to our adult logic, but think about it this way. Do we freak out and have them practice being in their stroller or their high chair or their car seat or a pack and play or the baby swing or any other baby gear other than freaking out over being in a crib? No, when it's time to go in one of those other, baby gear, things, a crib or a high chair, or a pack and play or a high chair or a swing or, the rock and play or whatever it is that you're doing, we just put them in it. And we just all right, let's do this. This is, here you go, and we just do it and we don't freak out about it. But we do have a tendency to get weird about the crib. So really, sit and think about what you're bringing into this picture with your own perspective, your own whatever conditioning has been done. Gosh, we are very conditioned, whether we like to believe it or not, by media, by social media, what we see on the mommy Facebook pages and some of the marketing tactics and such on some of these different sleep training websites. Really just kind of think about it, because if you go into this all stressed out, anxiety-ridden yourself, guess what? That's absolutely going to translate onto your child. Anxious parent, anxious child all day long. You've got to fake it till you make it if you have to. Just kind of reset your paradigm about all these things that are instilling fear in you about, providing something that your child is absolutely dying for, which is the consolidated sleep that many of you pay me to get for yourselves, to help your child through it. So, all right. So with that said, some parents just really feel very strongly that the crib is a scary place and they want to get their child used to it, liking it, all of that. So if that's the case, that philosophy, you can subscribe to that and just, put your kid in there maybe while you're bringing the ironing board or whatever it is you've got a task to do in the nursery or, wherever the crib is located, and set your child in there and just kind of let them hang out like you would a pack and play or any other, or swing or whatever else you have in your home, and just let them sit in there for a few minutes, maybe, have a stuffed animal or a toy in there, and make sure you're supervising them at all times if you have anything in that crib, if they're under a year old. And then just do your thing right next to them while they're in the crib, and do that a few times a day. Sometimes if you can get your child to take a nap in the crib during the day, even just starting out at one nap a day, or if your child is really used to you doing the work for them, nursing to sleep, having to be next to a warm body, all of that, and you're going to kind of eventually go into the sleep training stuff, you can just provide that nap in the crib, lay them down in there, and then just kind of soothe and stay with them cribside, until they eventually fall asleep. And, you can get up and go about your business once they do, or you can stay there with them through the duration of that nap, however long, you decide that to be. And just give them the practice of, falling asleep in that environment and maybe putting themselves back to sleep in that environment. Should they wake prematurely from a nap, you're there to soothe, cribside, and you help them to make that transition back to sleep if they should wake, short of a complete nap. And to wake up in that environment, just practice makes perfect. So that's a way that you can approach a more gradual transition to the crib, if you like. Both of those ways, just kind of being in the crib at play, just kind of hanging out in there while you're doing something in there while they're awake, or having the naps take place in there. Or sometimes parents like to just initially at night, they do all the work. And this one I'm not a fan of. Doing all the work for your child, putting them all the way to sleep, and then putting them in the crib, and they wake up and they're like, where the heck am I? It doesn't make sense. Honestly, whatever conditions that you condition your child to believe they need to have in place in order to relax or fall all the way to sleep to, are what they believe they need to have each time they arouse fully from a sleep cycle or in between each sleep cycle. So regardless of where they're at, they're going to call out for you to come in and do that work for them again, because that's all they know of how they get back to sleep. So the environment's not going to make much of a difference, whether it's in your bed or in the crib. So, make sure that, when they are falling asleep and drifting off, that they're, they realize they're in this crib. That's really gonna help a lot. Whether you choose a more gradual approach or a more, straightforward approach to, putting them in their crib or giving them this new sleep environment outside of your typical co-sleeping or bed sharing situation. All right, so the fast philosophy is just to do it, and just to kind of, and again, you guys, sleep training, what I do, it is 90% training the parent, not the child. The child's the easy part. They are dying for the sleep. They are tired. They're sleep deprived. You set them up for success and get out of their way so they can do it, and boom, it's done. It is so fast and so easy with a lot less stress and struggle and tears than parents ever anticipate if you are using those 4 pillars of sleep hygiene and you're giving them what they need. It's just, again, it's like giving a hungry person food. It's a no-brainer. But it's about changing your paradigm about, struggle and the difference between tears of temporary struggle while adapting to a new sleep environment or routine or parenting response versus tears of suffering. Big difference. But we've, lost our way. We've lost our ability to discern the difference between the two. And I blame social media for that, and the fact that we no longer have our grandmas and our moms and our aunties all living under one roof with us or next door, and, and all of that community that we used to have. Of parents. So it's a different culture. It's a different time. So it is more challenging. And you have 500 different messages on the internet, including mine, telling you something totally different from, what the next page you click over to says. So it's hard, in defense of parents, it's a tough tough world out there for us, as far as, knowing what to do. But, a quicker response or a quicker adjustment would be to just make sure they're totally set up for success with those 4 pillars. And then, you can choose a method, a behavioral method that is a little more straightforward, or, whatever's comfortable to you, but just to do it. But knowing that their brain and body want to do the sleeping because those hormones are already peaking out in their system, and it's hard to resist sleep when those are just kicking in, nice and strong, and they're set up for success in every way. It makes it really easy. And I'm telling you, if you're sleep deprived, just think about it. For yourselves, if you're so super sleep deprived, you haven't slept in days, months. I have parents who haven't slept in years, and you just, set that sleep situation up for them where it's just absolutely ideal, even if it's on a bed of nails even. Either way, if you're sleep deprived enough, you're going to sleep anywhere. That's why your kids will fall asleep at the high chair or in the car seat or, on a park bench or, whatever, at grandma's house, they'll fall asleep anywhere if they're tired enough. Same thing when you're, transitioning them to a crib from a co-sleeping situation. If they're tired enough, if you've really done the job of kickstarting that natural, normal, healthy melatonin production, those powerful sleep hormones, they'll sleep anywhere and they'll sleep there happily. And that's really the secret of making that transition from one, radical, co-sleeping in the bed with you, the whole 9 yards situation to a crib. So think about it on a more science approach, that 4 pillars of sleep hygiene approach. If that's in place, it's going to go really well. A lot easier and quicker than parents ever anticipate. I promise. Even if they're 3-4 years old and they've never had their own sleep environment before, they've been in the bed with you the whole time. Parents freak out and think that it's too late, and and they're they just kind of they're so anxiety ridden about it, and they never even bother to to start teaching because they think it's impossible to do. Well, it's not true. It's never too late. And it's easier even when they're older. So don't give up hope that they'll get out of your bed one day. It's about you being ready and having a few tools in front of you to make sure it's done in a situation, in an environment that's going to really help your child make that transition as quickly and easily as possible and de-stress you. And that's what a good sleep coach, a certified child and family sleep coach, will do for you. That's what I do. You can go to my website, jennijune.com, and check out my services and pricing. Also, some wonderful blogs with some great tips and baby care videos there for you. And you'll see where you can send me your information and tell me a little bit about your your particular struggles with your child's sleep, whether it's a co-sleeping situation to a crib or something totally different. I'm also a lactation counselor, so we really look at everything on a holistic approach and put all that information together for you on a 24-hour basis. Everything's covered. No stone is left unturned. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you so much for joining me, my friends. I really appreciate you watching. And again, put your stories, your comments, your questions below. I'll be happy to answer those this week for you. All right, we'll see you next Thursday at 1 o'clock Pacific time. Have a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.